Hey, this is Andrew from Fixing It Up. Today we're going to take a look at all the steps taken to build this assembly/outfeed table. The next video we'll take a look at how to do the tabletop and the drawers, but for now let's jump into the main construction.
Going into this project, I had a design in mind that was going to use 2x4 construction for the frame and skeleton. However, after bringing some lumber home and letting it sit overnight, they got pretty twisted on me and weren't really usable. Instead, I'm using a design that utilizes plywood, which is a lot more stable and less susceptible to wood movement. For the faces of the workbench, I'm using 3/4 inch plywood. That's pine, and it is sanded on both sides, which you see me breaking down into little strips as you see here. The rest of the construction is just regular 3/4 inch spruce construction grade plywood. These strips I'm breaking down are going to be used for what we'll call the beefed up face frame. They'll be glued and laminated together, as you can see me cutting all my different lengths here. Here I'm gluing all my side pieces together. I've used a couple of scrap pieces as stops to ensure proper gaps. You'll notice a sequence of long face piece followed by 2 shorter pieces, then topped with another full piece that is slightly less wide. These are for the longer components. The shorter components are 2 shorter pieces sandwiching a longer piece, again with the top being slightly less wide, by about 3/4 of an inch, which will make sense later on in the video. As I'm assembling the components, I'm putting them into clamps as seen here. Although I am brad nailing the pieces together, it isn't enough force to get a nice tight bond. The brad nails are just simply used to hold it into position to get them into clamps. When the glue is all dry, I go back to scrape and chisel off the excess, as well as tuning all the components for a slight height mismatch, and do this with a number 7 hand plane. Once I'm satisfied with the components, I'll move on to assembly. The shorter pieces slot into the longer pieces that form a big tongue and groove, and the shorter middle piece slides in to form a mortise and tenon. All of the joints get brad nailed into position, which everything gets put into clamps and squared up. Now that I have both sides constructed, I move on to the 2 main carcasses that will hold everything together, starting with breaking down the plywood. Once I have all my final dimensions, I use my pocket hole jig to prepare for assembly. I use a combination of clamps to hold certain pieces while screwing them in. As I'm going along, I'm measuring and checking for square. Both carcasses are complete, which we can move on to the more exciting part of the build and bring it all together. I start off with one side at a time, as I quickly realized that trying to do it all at once was too cumbersome. Each carcass was inserted into its slot and screwed into place. I flipped it on its side and did the other, which required a bit more motivating with clamps and a hammer. However, it all worked out and I managed to get both sides on with minimal choice words. It's all together. Now I have to put some filler pieces in for the casters, in which I glue and screw in. The casters are put into approximate place, pre-drilled, and fastened.
Thanks for joining me on this one, guys. I'm really happy with how this project came out. It's going to get all my tools into one central location. It also enables me for future, much larger projects, which I'm really excited to post. Thanks again for the support. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, and if you'd like to keep up with my future upcoming videos, I'd appreciate if you'd subscribe. See you in the next one, guys.